Cameroon's educational system is facing increasing criticism for not adapting promptly to the changing times. Many scholars are of the opinion that the country is still training its youth for white-collar or administrative positions that are not enough for the tens of thousands of young people that graduate each year. Such are asking for an intensive professionalism or professionalization of education so as to provide the country's youth with the skills needed for the job market. Others still are looking at the discrepancy that exists in towns that have more facilities and in villages that are in need, yet both children sit the same examinations. Our theme for discussion today is addressing barriers to education innovation, stakes and prospects. Our guests are Psalmist Faith educationist and counselor from Government Bilingual High School Etugebe in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Welcome to the program, madam.
Thank you very much.
What is a counselor's role in the education ladder?
A counselor's role is kind of using emotional intelligence and sociocultural intelligence to the maximum to help the learners.
And you've been doing just that where you are?
I've been trying to do it at a personal base because it's very difficult, or we are praying that it should be global as far as our learners and educators in our nation are concerned. Dr.
Darlington Patrick is educationist. He recently organized a seminar or a summit called Impact Education Innovation Summit here in Yaoundé. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moki. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here to talk on a very important topic that affects our nation.
What prompted you to organize this Impact Education Innovation Summit?
Thank you for that question. As a matter of fact, if we look at our education system, just as you started this particular program with, you see, I will always say that an education system, it's a system, and a system is like a machine. And in order for you to know whether that system is right, you need to check what is coming out of that machine, what is coming out of that system. And just as you said at the beginning, our graduates, we realize that most times they are being trained only for administrative positions, which of course is never enough. Therefore, there is that need for innovation, meaning that we must come back to this machine and see how we can change some things so that the product that will be coming out of the machine should be able to handle the future that, number one, the whole world has embraced, and number two, should be able to answer the questions of the problems that are disturbing us even as a nation. So the reason why we organize the Impact Education Innovation Summit is to see how we can bring in about 7 innovations in education that if every school can even implement even one, then it would change the whole landscape as far as our education system is concerned.
Thank you. We shall be coming to you back to explain to us what the 7 proposals you are bringing are. Nalyonge Maximilianus Ewoko is an educationist and school principal. He's also a researcher. You also contributed at that summit. What did you learn, or what did you contribute?
Well, thank you very much for having me first on board, and I extend my greetings to my co-panelists and all those who are glued to this infotainment program as usual. I was opportune to have been part of the discussion that took place during the summit, and not what I contributed first, but what I learned. It was a very enriching program, and I learned from the other contributors or panelists, and especially from Dr. Darlington, the importance of micro-credentials in our schools, and alongside a good number of innovations or proposals he brought in. And my contribution during the summit was to see on how to propose mechanisms on how the new system of education enacted by the Ministry of Secondary Education, distance learning, can help or what we can do to help reach the suburbs, those who are in the rural areas, those who don't have access to internet and electricity, and what are the mechanisms, what do we think the Ministry of Secondary Education can do to enhance this education, enhance this mechanism, and make sure we have a hybrid of learning system to overcome the learning barriers in our country.
This is Twilight. This is CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzakan Yaoundé. I'll be right back. Before we understand what the changes some people are advocating for are all about, let's start by looking at the present situation of education in our country. Psalmist first, I'm starting with you. What is the present situation like?
Okay, I'll go to something very interesting. I would like to talk about the disconnection about what we learn, how we learn, and the impact of it on us. Now, when I was young, we were torn away from our traditional norms, from our traditional cultures. You can imagine how we used to teach our children of kind of abstract things, abstract subjects. You know, we go to school, we learn about Shakespeare, Voltaire. Apple. I only saw an apple when I was about 16 or 17 years old, or 18, I should say so. But there was a disconnection between what I know or what I live, my tradition, indigenous culture, and what we were exposed to. I think that alone has a lot of things. It brings me to a place where I don't know who I am. There's an identity crisis. You know, when you don't know who you are, you want to copy. We look at the world through the lens of others. We don't know what we carry. We don't know what we are composed of. That alone has a lot to do with our educational system. The educators, the people that are learning, none of them know their identities. That's the first crime. That's the first thing that we have to face. Because if you know who you are, if the teachers know who they are, they will equally identify students or kind of help the students to drilling them to a purpose-driven kind of life. Because if a child knows who she is, if a child knows who he is or who she is, I think the child will be more profitable or more productive than somebody who is just lost in the system that we are being taught of. Our curriculum, to start with, our curriculum is very far from what it's very disconnected from us. You know, we have been talking about that. But what do? I, for one, I have children at home. I have my kids. I'm a teacher. But it will be out of place for me during holidays after they have sat in class and learn. And I take them again and go to start learning 1 + 2 and all of that. No, this child came on earth because this child carries something. There's something that you do, like work, because our educational system has taught us for job seeking. But that's not it. We are supposed to be all-round people, complete. If we are complete, a child, we have graphic designers, we have fashion designers, we have, pilots, you can name the rest. If those children, carpenters, at first they used to condemn, why you don't go to school, you are not intelligent enough, go to the technical section. What about that? The technical section, if that's where you can make life, that's it. Now we are even regretting that the vocational system that we condemned is the best. The technical system that we condemn is the best. The general education, what has it taken us to?
Okay.
Especially the curriculum, what has it taken us to? It has made people that are more confused than people that are purpose-driven.
So you have a lot to say. Dr. Darlington Patrick, what is the situation like, presently? What have you observed that you're advocating for?
Very, very, very important. You know, it's not been so many weeks when we saw PhD holders, they were striking and saying that the government has not provided enough job for them. That is a product out of the system. So if we are having that type of product out of the system, it means something is wrong with the system. If we look at our problems as a nation, in the area of peace, in the area of unemployment and all of that. The fact that those problems are still existing, it means that that machine that is producing these products, something has to be done. So if we say what is our present situation now, the product that's coming out of that system can tell us our present situation. And that's why we are advocating to bring more innovations so that we can produce.
What are the products looking like that are coming out of the system?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's not been too long. How can someone with a PhD, you have gone through the system, meaning you entered the system as a kindergarten, and then you went through all the years, and then you come out of the system with a PhD, and then you cannot create a job? Something is wrong with the system. Okay, let me just give it. Normally, the product that is supposed to be coming out of an education system is supposed to be having these factors: intelligence, that has to do with knowledge and skills, attitude, and character. These are the three things that every education system must build in every human being. If a child comes out of this product and then the child has knowledge of some fields, the child has skills, the child has been built up in a strong attitude, and of course the child has character, then automatically this child is going to be a problem solver in our society. You know, when I talk about attitude is the relationship between you and the circumstances. Based on the type of circumstances that we are having in our nation, whatever, probably, okay, let's just take this particular one. The economy is not that favorable. It is important that there is an attitude that should be given to these children within the system, so that by the time they come out, such circumstances, they will be able to face it and then keep moving. And you see, you said something at the beginning. You know, I listened to you very well. Until we moved away from a system that will produce children that are looking forward to maybe the government should start employing them, to start producing people that will be job creators, then it will be very difficult for us to change as a nation. Why? Because any nation whose great people are somehow in quotes politicians or those that have been employed by the government, then something is wrong with that system.
Now, Leonge, what have you observed this far also, as far as the issues that are not proper, that are not right with our education system?
Yes, categorically, I will not say our educational system is bad, but as Doctor said, we need innovations. When we talk of innovating something, it means we are moving from an inferior state to a superior state, or a better state. When we say innovating, it means we are adding small test, small cube or salt into that system for it to meet up with the needs of time. Innovation in education is a crucial issue because it needs to meet up with the 21st century learners and the needs of our time, the desires of our time, and the expectations. Now, our education system is good, but with the advent of technology...
I think these are images of the seminar,
yes,
that you organized here in Yaoundé. The topic or the theme was addressing barriers to education, innovation,
obviously,
stakes and prospects. Who are those participants? Who are those people in the hall?
Yes, the participants were teachers. There were, in fact, education stakeholders like teachers, like proprietors, like school principals. We had the CDUC and the deputy and even students. There were a good number of students there who took part in the seminar, in the summit. And as I was saying, we have a good number of innovations, and when we take our curriculum, like one of the types of innovations we have in education is curriculum innovation. Now, our curriculum is a type that it doesn't meet up or answer rapidly to the needs of our society. For instance, we have the problem of contextualization of education in Cameroon, which I would like to say contextualization or regionalization of education. If we look into the NEET 8 student who is in the north, in Marwa, in Garwa or Gaunderi, who is versed with the production of cotton, and the student who is in Yaoundé, who has little idea about cotton, but in another dimension, another sphere, we cannot say that these two learners can have the same skill when it comes to maybe technology, maybe physics, mathematics, chemistry. So when we talk of regionalization of education, which is one of the proposals, if Cameroon in the 21st century needs to look into that, if those in the north, in the northwest, for instance, and in the north, they are used to cattle rearing. We can contextualize or regionalize education in such a way that, because we cannot merge or compare, evaluate the strength of a monkey by saying that putting the monkey in a sea to swim. You cannot assess the strength of a fish by permitting that fish to climb a tree. No, we are going to consider it to be a discrepancy in education. We take it back to our learners in Cameroon. A learner in the suburb without electricity and access to internet, can that learner have the same facility like he or she who is in Yaoundé with all the technological facilities? No. This takes us back now to the contextualization or regionalization of education, whereby if this is handled at this fair, we are going to realize that a child in Marwa, in Garwa, in Gaunderi, who grows in the domain of cattle rearing and cotton can better get into invention or fabrication in the future, while he who is maybe in Yaoundé versed with technology can invent maybe devices that can help meet up with the 21st century requirements. So that is just one of the innovations in education which we are thinking that our educational systems need to start embracing to meet up with the challenges of our era and the specific needs of Cameroon. Another sample, when we had the director of national security, as they say in French, le père de la police, Martin Bangangele, who left Yaoundé to Mutengene, and we saw his complaint. Leaving Yaoundé to Mutengene, the number of hours he spent on the way, the potholes and all the like. Now, contextualizing our education, this takes us to the philosophical concept of Afro-constructivism, whereby how do we make use of what we have in Cameroon? We have learners, students who grew up with their grandparents in the villages, who grew up in Bamenda, in the southwest, in the northwest, or other areas, even in the east, who are versed with plants, who are versed with trees, who are versed with roots. They can better get into the positive side of the metaphysical, the positive side of metaphysics to help create medicines or cures to some of our illnesses. We take a simple example. What I'm going to say might seem very stupid, and I'll always say it. We in Cameroon, when I say witchcraft, maybe the first thing that comes to your mind is negativity. But we need to think out of the box. And if we can, the practitioners of, when they talk of witchcraft, it comes from two compound nouns. Witch.
Don't distract us now. Okay, just come back to the topic. Talk about the education system.
Yes, I just wanted to get into that domain. Well, as you say, let me just go out of it. It was a way of saying that if we use the skills, the talents we have in Cameroon, those who practice, maybe they have a particular skill, a particular talent.
Maybe the herbalist you're talking of here.
Well, I do not want to just take a herbalist. I wanted to get to something, but let me just skip that. Maybe we'll talk about that later on. If we can contextualize these skills and make sure that at the kindergarten or the primary level, we have children who can start producing medicine that can help even in typhoid, in malaria. Before these learners reach secondary, they will now be getting into the implementation, merging it with some skills in chemistry and mathematics. When they reach the university, what happens? We have a good number of students who will be inventing drugs for the consumption in our country.
Psalmist Faith, the world is becoming a global village. We cannot contextualize things and say we shall be doing it in Cameroon because Cameroon is part of the world, and people are thinking beyond their geographical limits.
Yes, I wanted to say something on that. I wanted to say how the teachers, our learners, can help our students using sociocultural intelligence and emotional intelligence, because you see the rate of violence that is in school, in our school system right now. What is happening? Look at a child that is in class, social media, a child alone, the things that are there, that the different ecosystems that are kind of navigating in their minds. A young girl, a young boy, knows what is happening in Afghanistan, knows what is happening in Bamenda, knows what is happening in Bambili at the same time, because they have social media, knows, at home it's giving instructions. Maybe the child is undergoing puberty, hormones are being released, and it's like, what do I do? Deepening of the voice for the boy and the girl, mood swings and all of that. What is happening? These children, and they are being taught in school, a lot of things are happening. I think that how do our educators use this socio-cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence to canalize these children, to help them cope and deal with this, or interpreting these different ecosystems in their minds? You ask questions, why are many of our young people having mental problems? They are exposed to a lot. How do we do it? That's my own kind of innovation I want to look at. How do the teachers help these children to kind of, canalize these many things that they are carrying in their minds? You look at a child like this, you need emotional intelligence to depict what that child is thinking at that moment, to kind of solve the problem that child is going through. Maybe the child left home, maybe with the internally displaced. Some are not even living with their parents. Some are living with people that are maltreating them, and they come to school late, and you are like shouting at the child. You don't even know what the child is going through, with a lot of things that are. How do we help these children? How do the teachers, what are the competence they should adopt right now? Cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity, because most of them are coming from different cultural backgrounds, barriers, values, and norms. At times we just judge them. At times we just look at them. At times we want to kind of gather them together. No, there is a need to separate. There's a need to be sensitive. There's a need to kind of help them to identify, find out who they are in the midst of all these many, many, many things that are happening.
You mean that in the present context, that is not given room, room is not given to teachers, or for teachers to discuss individually with those children?
I'm like, what am I doing? Not all teachers are aware of that. Not all the teachers are aware of that. Most of us enter class. I am a science teacher. I enter the class. I'm teaching biology. I'm so concerned about my biology. But then, if I have knowledge on emotional intelligence, if I have knowledge on socio-cultural intelligence,
you understand the children
I will
better.
understand the children better. I will help them. Like what Dr. Darlington was saying, we have people that grow up to a particular level, and they are still looking for somebody to give them jobs. How can somebody give you a job? If you know your identity, if you know what you are. And the teachers, first of all, if you have a problem, you can't solve a problem. Most of the teachers too don't even know who they are. I think if they know who they are and they learn these skills, they can help our learners better. That is my innovation. They can help our learners to be emotionally balanced, because when children are emotionally balanced, they can listen to what the teacher is saying. At times you look at them, they are drugs. They go for drugs. It's not like they love it. It's the world, as I said. Social media, the children are... The world is becoming a global village. In short, it is in their minds. How do we help them separate these things? How do we help them? We need a kind of a journey for identification and changing and formatting minds.
Okay.
As far as our learners are concerned.
One thing we've learned today is that the educational system was made at a time to be able to prepare children for the public service that Cameroon needed badly at independence, and to prepare them to be teachers. But as the years are going by, there is a growing need to innovate to make them independent when they leave school, so as to reduce unemployment. Now, Dr. Darlington, you are talking about 7 points that you are preparing to be able to effect change, that when these children leave school, they'll be able to go to the field and, you see the difference, unlike what is happening today. Can you elaborate on this?
Okay. I'm going to start. Let me start with what Mr. Nalyonge was talking about, and that is what we call micro-credentials. Micro-credentials, we want to see that introduced in schools, so that by the time children are done with maybe the O-level, advanced level, or their degree, they will not just have only the certificate that the government or maybe a GC board is going to provide, but they are also going to have an additional certificate. What's that additional certificate all about? You know, you remember I told you that in order for an education system to be very fine, to be very right, there has to be knowledge and skill, there has to be attitude and character. So micro-credentials come to solve the problems of skills. You know, right now, our children, when they go to write exams, they are being tested only on knowledge. And that is why you see schools are focused so much on acquiring knowledge and all of that. But by the time we start introducing micro-credentials that will start teaching us skills, then you will see that by the time a child comes out, even if it is just advanced level, the child will be able to stand. Why? Because knowledge plus skill at least is more advantageous than knowledge alone. And what type of skills are we supposed to start teaching these children? He was making mention of that. Let us look at the problems that we are having as a nation. For example, one of our speakers in the summit, he was talking about the deaths all over our streets and all of that. So one of the skills that we can start teaching in our schools is waste management. Just imagine that from primary 5, or let's say from primary 3, we start introducing waste management as a skill. Then the child learns that. By the time the child finishes maybe from 3 or so, then the child must have understood very well on how to manage waste. Then we can give that child a certificate, which we call a micro-credential. Just imagine that such a child is having that skill. And these are not the only skills. We are having, look at our problems everywhere. We can create out skills from those problems so that by the time these children come out of school, they are equipped to solve our present problems before we start talking of problems from outside. So the first innovation that we are proposing, that we are even praying that it should be implemented, is that in schools there should be micro-credentials. I will take you for example in our school, because I run a school. In Form 3, everybody, you must go on this particular micro-credential, which is being an office assistant. Being an office assistant, that is the secretariat studies. By the time you are done with Form 3, okay, you will have that certificate. When you go to Form 4, the micro-credential skill there is project management. Why did we choose that? Because being a project manager, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what situation you face in life, you will be able to manage it out. So project management is one of the skills that, okay, for us, we are doing that in our school. By the time you are in lower 6, the micro-credential that you are supposed to be taking will now be e-commerce, because we see that is going on everywhere. E-commerce, photography, which the Ministry of Secondary Education is actually bringing in now, photography, videography, and all of that. You see, these are skills that we should not say until a child goes to a technical school before you learn all those things. No, these are skills that if these children learn, and it doesn't take too much. Every one academic year, you come out with a powerful skill. Every one academic year, you come out with a powerful skill. By the time you are done, I am telling you the truth, you will not even be looking for anybody to give you a job. With that skill, you will be able to have a job. And however, skill alone is not enough. That's why we move now to innovation number 2. And the innovation number 2 is the teaching, the deliberately teaching of attitude and character. As Miss Faith talked about it. You see, attitude, as I said before, attitude is your relationship with the circumstances of life. Attitude such as determination, it must be taught. It must be taught. It should not be taught as a passing by stuff. We must have time that we teach that. For example, I give you another example in our school, because they say charity begins at home. Everything that we want, that we are proposing, is what we do. What we do is that we teach these children attitude every morning, attitude and character. Meaning that by the time they come for devotion, after we are done with singing the national anthem and all of that, the next 30 minutes, we must pick what we call the theme of the week. For example, we can say the theme of this week is determination. Every morning of that week, we are going to be teaching them determination. It begins with a story. We tell them a story where the main character there is determined to make it in life. We go to definition, we go to the advantages, and then of course we go, how do you build that? So if you take determination for 2 weeks, it is almost impossible that a child that will spend 7 years in your secondary school will come out without a strong attitude. Because I can tell you, one of our main problems that we are having now is not knowledge. Our main problem we are having now is attitude. What is attitude? The force, the no retreat, no surrender kind of thing. The thing that you face life, it doesn't matter the challenges. That must be taught deliberately. It must be taught deliberately, not in passing. So it's something we have been doing, and last academic year we proposed it to some schools and they have started using it. I can tell you, when I called those schools for the feedback, it's wonderful. The parents love it.
Micro-credentials would have innovation. Number 3 now.
Oh, okay. But okay, number 3, there's something you said. You were asking Sammy's Faith. You said that the world now is a global village. It is true. We applaud what the Ministry of Secondary Education is doing in terms of digitalization. That is powerful. However, we can do more. Why? Looking at our context, what we must do is we must start introducing these children into the digitalization of education that will not require internet. And that is why one of the innovation we have brought is for children to even write exams using the computer without internet, without network, without any of that. In such a way that a child will just sit down in front of the computer, answer all the questions. By the time the child is done, you just get you just get your score. So you see, that has solved the problem of printing, photocopying, and all of that. So you see, we are exposing these children now to digitalization, at least at our own context, that will say, okay, the money is not there to always buy internet, but we can do that without the use of internet. So the third innovation that we are proposing is the computer-based test. No internet, in other words, is an offline stuff. We are just pleading that the education community can implement these proposals.
We have taken 3. We'll come back to you to give us the 4 that are remaining. I think they are very understood. Madam, do you want to react to what he just said?
Yes, I want to add to something or react to what he just said in a different way, as a mother and as a counselor, as an educator. What I do, for instance, I have children at home. By the grace of God, Darlington knows one of my girls. I'm somebody, I thank God, because I am somebody who believes in building self-capacity. I'm exposed to the world. I don't just want to depend on what or kind of boxed. No, I want to open up and want to learn what the world is offering, digitalization and all of that. Each time, each holidays, my children go to learn one thing. I have my last baby is 12 years, the second is 13, and the eldest is 15 years. The 15 years is a graphic designer. She's an artist. She has 2 videos on YouTube. She does a lot of she did Microsoft Office. I take them every holiday. I kind of drill them. Now they are doing video mounting, videography, and all of that. I mean, that's what parents can do. 12 years,
15 years.
Yes, 12 years, 15 years. They are doing enormous. They are musicians. They are, good musicians. They have the musical ear and all of that. The teachers that come to me as an educator, during the holidays, I tell them, please take your children to where they can learn a skill. Because a child has to be independent. Most of the problems we have in our country, my journalist, if people are purpose-driven, most of them will not engage in violence. Most of them will not. They will put down the guns. People are useless when they don't know who they are. When you know who you are, and you value time, because when you know who you are, you value time. You will not useless your time. Let us learn how, and that when I have time, when I finish teaching, this is what I tell my children, all my students. I tell them, please, during holidays, when your parents tell you, go sit and learn what you have just left, tell your parents you want to learn a skill, you want to learn a trade, you want to learn something. If we start teaching them, because what is the change we need? The change is you. Start by being the change. Do something to help in the, vision 2035. Do something. Don't just wait that the authorities should give what are you doing? How can you affect your community positively? Attitude, as he's saying. When I'm one of the teachers, when I notice that there's a child has a problem, character, what is happening in school, this Form 4 girl is going out, the Form 3 girl, I don't shout at you, I call you, I make you my friend. When I make you my friend, I'm trying to kind of learn or kind of study your emotions and help you. Most of them, I am inviting them to my house this holidays, Easter holidays, because I want to build a relationship with them and help them out of that. I think there are ways we can help these children other than just canalizing in the fact that you are this teacher, but you are a parent, you are a change agent. So how do you do it? Everywhere I go, I want to leave a mark. I want to tell our parents, educators, those that are listening to me, let us help our nation. Let us build our nation. We can consciously do that. It is out of place that you have a child that is 10 years, 15 years, and they cannot do something with their skills. Gone are those days, Mr. Muki, that they say handwork. Handwork, right? Handwork.
You're making some of us look guilty.
No, handwork. Handwork. They ask you to do handwork. You need to create something. But now parents go and buy brooms and give their children to go and give in school. Parents buy things and give. No, that handwork. In short, our old educational system had some good things, even had some positive things.
We have
that we overmined.
Flower gardens, we had, orchards in school.
Orchards in school, go and plant and all of that. You are teaching the children about agriculture. But now our parents or the modern parents, they think that they are helping the children. They buy them gadgets. They don't control the children. The children are just being drug addicts. In short, they don't know their children. They are with them, but they don't know the children. Oh, my God.
Alonge, do we have the manpower, the resources, accepted that what Dr. Darlington and Psalmist Faith are saying is correct, we can implement, but do we have the human capital, the human resources to do that? Most of teachers today, they are not there because they want to be teachers, they are there because they need jobs.
Yes, thank you very much. And I can see to a greater extent, we have the human resources needed to implement most of these innovations to overcome the learning barriers and the education barriers. Even though to a certain extent, the manpower is really limping. Because I am a digital educator and a promoter of digital learning or digital pedagogy. And one problem I face, I am a principal, a school principal, and one problem I face as a school principal and a teacher, I can say categorically, most teachers nowadays don't want to embrace the innovations. Most teachers nowadays want to remain traditional. When you talk about digital pedagogy, believe you me, it is a nightmare. They see you as a devil, as a demon. And we believe that it is because of the limited knowledge most of them have in it. And even if you go extra miles to want to train them, some teachers they undergo training for formalities, not for their personal human building. So we think that even recruitment now in private schools or government schools, or even those that train in the higher teacher training college, the training system needs to change. And teachers need to be empowered with digital tools. There are a good number of digital tools which are there to overcome the learning barriers. Before I get into that, there is what we call learning variability. Each learner has his or her own way of apprehending. There is that person, that student who can better read but cannot write. There is he who can better write but cannot maybe read. So how do we make sure that we meet up to these learning barriers? As Mahfet said, because of some socio-economic situations, family conditions, most of the students they go through a good number of issues which we can term psychotraumatology. How do we take them out of this dungeon? it is to identify their learning barriers and use these digital tools to overcome them. For instance, when a child sees or hears, the child can easily apprehend than you just reading, talking. At times you can be talking, singing your song, and a child is there. You think, is it understood? Yes, sir. Yes, madam. They go, but they don't apprehend. So we are trying to say that 21st century education, with the presence of technology, we need to go into a hybrid of traditional model of teaching and the digital model, whereby we appreciate the mechanism put in place by the Ministry of Secondary Education with a distance learning platform. That is one of the innovations. But this is still having a barrier whereby it doesn't meet up, as Doctor said, to the learners in our suburbs who don't have internet, they don't have electricity. So we are, as Doctor said, what we think as educators or educationists is, during the summit, I talk about the talking book. There is what they call a talking book. It is being used in Ghana, in Kenya, in Zambia, and it is really producing good results. If the Ministry of Secondary Education can adopt the policy of a talking book, what is it all about? It is a solar-powered device, which is it depends on the size, but it is very mobile, like a mobile phone, whereby we have pre-recorded lessons following the curriculum, following the syllabus, and we could use an external a memory card or a USB key or even a disk, a small disk insert, or some could be enshrined in the device. Now, the ministry can produce a good number with all the recorded lessons for all the subjects possible, take it to the suburbs. A child, a student in Fulawa who is maybe not having access to electricity or internet, can be following the same lesson. He who is in Yaoundé is following on the distant learning platform. That is an education innovation. It is coming to overcome the barriers of internet. Teachers should not be crying there is no internet. They will condemn what the ministry has brought up. This thing, how is it going to help us? Will it arrive all the areas in Cameroon? No internet, no electricity, no. Let us think out of the box. That is why we went to school. We are at this level to think on these innovations.
Thank you, Nalionge. Dr. Darlington, you spoke about micro-credentials, you spoke about innovation and digitalization, computer-based education. Now, you have 4 more points you wanted to develop. You said there were 7 of them.
Mr. Moki, I think we've given 3 already. Yes, and if maybe we can start with those 3, it will be fine. So just briefly explain the 3 others. It's interesting. No,
people want to learn and know.
Yes. That's why I say just permit me. Let's hold that 4 first. Okay, let's hold that 4 first, because you see, there's something very interesting, sir. You asked Mr. Nalionge if we are having this manpower or if we are having these resources. The truth is, we have it. Yeah. Our only problem, which I think we should look too much into, is still this attitude I talk about. You know, they asked the president, I think that was John F. Kennedy, what will it take to put a man? No, he was the one that asked, what will it take to put a man on the moon? The only answer they gave was, they didn't talk about resources. They said the will to do it. If that will is there, if he said we should change even the curriculum in our teachers' training, we should teach them more on leadership, more on personal leadership, because it is that personal leadership that will make them, Sammy's face said, they discover themselves. Because you see, there are 2 motivations in life. It's either you are motivated because of the money that is in that thing, or you are motivated because you want to bring a change. The moment we start teaching people on the other angle of motivation, on how to change your nation, how to change your community, then that will be there. So I think our problem is not even too much of the other innovations, but it is more of, let us look at how we can change our attitude. Because, you see, it's clear in the Bible. seek ye first the kingdom of God, every other thing will be added. Or you seek the other thing. If we are training people to seek other things, then it is obvious if a teacher comes to class and all he is looking forward to is the salary at the end of the month, you don't expect anything to happen. But if we start teaching right from the kindergarten, we start teaching them on the love for your nation. That love for your nation, if that is taught, if we are having TV broadcast, for example, where we come to even give motivational talks, you know, in some of these developed worlds, a motivational speaker, you have too much money. Do you know why? It's because a motivational speaker, he comes to increase the energy of the populace. And once that energy is increased, people can do anything. This thing of the resources is not there or the manpower is not there, is there. The only thing is the attitude. The only thing is, how do we, am I working for myself or am I working because I want to make this nation better? That's why we brought, for example, look at the summit we organized. I can tell you too much money entered into that summit. By the end of that summit, we had spent plenty millions. Is it going to come back somewhere? Well, no. It was just because of the love for the nation, the love for the education system, that if these things are implemented, probably if a child is changed because of this implementation, because of this innovation, maybe that child will be the one that is going to save probably my grandchild tomorrow in the hospital. You see, the love for the nation is one of the things that we must teach. And that's why I say with these three, even if we begin with these three, I don't want to enter the next one. Because if I enter the next one, for example, I start talking about a digital textbook. Because, for example, I attended the Korea Education Summit. By next academic year, they are not going to be doing anything with papers anymore. Every textbook will be digitalized. From nursery school down to the university. That's innovation. We may not welcome that now. That's why I say we can start with these three and see how far we can go.
If you're joining us, you're watching Twilight on CRTV News. Our topic of discussion is addressing barriers to education, innovation, stakes, and prospects. And our guests are Dr. Darlington Patrick, who is organizer of Impact Education Innovation Summit that took place in Cameroon's capital city, Yaoundé. Nalionge Maximilianus Ewoko, who is a school principal, educationist, and researcher. We also have Psalmist Faith who is a counselor at the Government Bilingual High School, Etukebe, here in Yaoundé. Madam, when you are discussing with students, do you tell them or their parents they meet? You tell them, for instance, during this holiday, you can go to learn how to shave or go to, to do shoe mending, repair shoes?
What I kind of provoke them, I motivate them, just like Dr. Darlington was saying. I bring a topic and I tell them, you don't have money? Why don't you have money? They come and pull a child out of class because of maybe 32,000. I say, why? 32,000? Can 32,000 be a problem? What do you do during holidays? You just sit at home. You cannot create. Can't you think to do something? You can't even sell. There are some of my students, I tell them, I saw one selling eggs. Who knows what she does at the end of every week? That is it. We teach entrepreneurship to our students. One of the things and the ills we have maybe suffered for the years is that our educational system had taught people to learn to pass exams. You learn to pass exams. So you copy. You do. I mean, I'm teaching Form 4. A Form 4 child writes English. You are asking yourself if it is a primary school child that's written that English. Why? Because the values, that attitude, is no longer that determination to learn. I mean, for passion, to learn to work. I would like those two words, job and work. They are two different things. Job, I mean, somebody employs you for a job, but work is what you are called to do. You do it even if you are not given a salary to do. You do it passionately. So one of the things we can really kill is teaching our children to learn to pass. I mean, to train them
Go beyond
to
passing
study
exams
for
to be
exams.
able-
Yeah, they will cram things and...
Now, Madam
yes.
I'm going to interrupt you there because we're taking a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we shall look at the lessons we've been able to learn today and what we normally call our take-home message.
Okay.
Let's take a break. We shall be back.
Chaque année, à la même époque, le monde entier se transforme en un vaste terrain de jeu où les farces et les canulars règnent en maître. Les adultes retrouvent leur âme d'enfant, tandis que les petits éclatent de rire et les grands sourient avec complicité. Chacun a ses propres motivations pour célébrer ce jour de pur divertissement où l'humour et la créativité sont les seules règles du jeu. Certains envoient des messages humoristiques ou malicieux pour surprendre leurs proches, tandis que d'autres préfèrent offrir des cadeaux farfelus comme des poissons en plastique ou des bonbons farceurs pour exprimer leur sens de l'humour. Mais qui aurait cru que jusqu'au début du XXe siècle, le 1er avril était un jour de déclaration d'amour? À l'époque, on envoyait des cartes représentant un poisson, symbole de fécondité et de bon augure, pour dire « je t'aime » à la personne aimée. Aujourd'hui, ce jour est devenu un moment de pur divertissement où l'on peut laisser libre cours à son imagination et à son sens de l'humour. Alors, n'hésitez pas à jouer des tours à vos amis et à votre famille, mais attention à ne pas vous faire piéger à votre tour.
En date du 14 novembre 2024, à travers un communiqué radio-presse, le ministre des Transports annonçait la dématérialisation des titres de transport censés prendre effet le lundi 2 décembre 2024. Une décision qui vise à moderniser et simplifier les déplacements des usagers et à réduire les coûts de production et de distribution des documents papier. Le projet concerne 2 principaux secteurs, routier et maritime. En tout, 25 documents sont requis, notamment le certificat de capacité, le permis de conduire ou de naviguer, le permis de conduire national et international, la licence de transport, le certificat de jauge, le rôle d'équipage, la carte de circulation, pour ne citer que cela. Le processus d'obtention des titres de transport se fera entièrement en ligne via ce site web. Les usagers devront désormais utiliser les applications mobiles ou les sites web pour accéder à leurs titres de transport. Cette réforme est une étape importante vers la modernisation du secteur des transports au Cameroun. Néanmoins, elle nécessite une mise en œuvre soigneuse afin que les titres de transport numériques soient sécurisés, fiables et accessibles à tous.
Depuis le 2 décembre 2024, les usagers n'ont plus besoin de se rendre dans les services du ministère des Transports pour obtenir un permis de conduire, une carte de conducteur, une attestation de formation, une facture ou encore un bon de livraison.
Pour avoir, par exemple, une carte grise, il fallait faire des courbettes au bureau des transports, délégation des transports, il faut aller aux impôts, il fallait attendre beaucoup de temps. Ça facilite vraiment les choses pour le moment.
Réduit déjà les tracasseries. C'est une initiative qui est de nature à faciliter les choses non seulement aux automobilistes, mais à tous ceux qui voudraient avoir un papier ou alors un truc venant du ministère du Transport.
Si l'obtention en ligne des titres de transport semble rouler dans le bon sens, reste que plusieurs usagers sont encore à la traîne.
Moi, je ne suis pas au courant de ces mesures, mais si le ministre a décidé cela, qu'on paie ça en ligne, c'est qu'il a très bien fait. Parce qu'au ministère des Transports, il y avait trop d'arnaques.
Il faut une large sensibilisation. Donc les usagers, beaucoup de personnes ne sont pas encore informées que les choses ont changé. pour la facilité à obtenir leur titre de transport.
Une étape importante vers la modernisation du secteur des transports au Cameroun. Elle facilite la vie des usagers et contribue à l'amélioration de la sécurité routière.
Il y a des stages à tout moment. Par jour, on peut avoir 2 ou 3 fois et des stages.
Sans énergie électrique, pas moyen pour ce coiffeur d'utiliser sa tondeuse. Pour pallier au problème, Patrick a eu recours à un groupe électrogène.
On a fait recours au groupe électrogène, mais parfois le coût du carburant aussi cher parce qu'on met le carburant 2000 francs, ça coûte cher. Ça peut faire 1 heure 30 minutes.
Dans cette laverie, l'utilisation des cartures est permanente. Ces perturbations ralentissent le fonctionnement de plusieurs entreprises. Au regard des pertes enregistrées, la population appelle à une intervention du gouvernement.
Ici, là, on ne peut pas passer une semaine sans avoir un problème de coupure. Et parfois, le courant part le soir, ça revient le matin. Ici, là, la laverie, même tu arrives, le catcher ne fonctionne pas, beaucoup de petits problèmes. C'est surtout nous qui travaillons avec le courant. Je dis seulement que le gouvernement ait pitié de nous, parce que nous, on vit de ça.
Le phénomène touche plusieurs quartiers de la ville de Yaoundé, plongeant les ménages dans le désarroi.
Nous sommes dans l'obscurité. On se bat, le poisson même, on fait fumer. Ça fait 3 jours, 4 jours avant de revenir. Les enfants même pour apprendre, c'est des problèmes.
Les alertes envoyées aux consommateurs par la société d'électricité Eneo évoquent des incidents récurrents sur le réseau de transport. Des incidents qui jurent avec les investissements consentis par le gouvernement pour satisfaire l'offre en énergie dans le réseau interconnecté Sud.
Le drapeau du Cameroun et celui de la Turquie flottent ensemble, symbolisant une dynamique économique et sociale qui se renforce entre les deux pays. Ce signe de coopération s'est matérialisé à travers cette signature d'une convention de partenariat entre le Conseil des imams et dignitaires musulmans du Cameroun, SIDIMU, et la Chambre internationale des hommes d'affaires de Turquie, Turkaba. Cet accord vise à faciliter les relations commerciales et le développement socio-économique pour le plus grand bien des hommes d'affaires.
Au regard du rôle important que joue la Turquie sur le rapprochement des peuples en matière économique et commerciale, nous pensons que cette convention va nous permettre davantage de mobiliser les Camerounais pour bénéficier sur toute la ligne de la coopération économique et commerciale avec la Turquie.
Nous sommes acteurs dans la dynamisation de la coopération économique entre le Cameroun et la Turquie, aux côtés effectivement des institutionnels. Et nous avons aussi un volet social au sein de notre organisation. Donc c'est une opportunité pour nous, au sein de notre organisation, d'apporter notre contribution à la mise en œuvre efficace de ces différents projets à caractère entrepreneurial au sein du SIDIMU.
Ce partenariat sera pour le Cameroun une aubaine dans la réception du savoir-faire turc, dans le secteur de l'import-substitution et bien d'autres.
Les fidèles musulmans, y compris ceux de la communauté Mbororo, glorifient Allah par des invocations à l'esplanade du stade de Buea Town et lui rendent grâce pour le bon déroulement des 30 jours de privation. Un moment qui impacte positivement leur vie.
Il nous a prescrit le jeûne pour qu'on soit conscient de Dieu en sortant de 30 jours de jeûne, de riches, partagés aux pauvres. Celui qui jeûne, automatiquement, il n'est plus obèse.
Dans la prière, bâtie autour du thème « L'islam, un modèle de vie », l'imam de la mosquée centrale de Boya insiste sur la corruption pendant son sermon.
On appelle à nous-mêmes, à chacun de nos citoyens, de changer leur comportement. Parce que quand on parle de corruption, ce n'est que pas quelqu'un qui prend de l'argent. Il y a plusieurs manières d'être corrompu. Même manière de parler, c'est aussi une corruption.
En présence des autorités administratives, les imams de Boya implorent les grâces d'Allah sur le président Paul Biya et prient pour la stabilité au Cameroun, surtout en cette année électorale.
À la place des fêtes de Kribi, de nombreux fidèles musulmans et le préfet de l'océan, dans leur boubou et gandoura neuf, ont pris part à la grande prière, marquant la fin du ramadan et la rupture du jeûne. L'imam Ismaël Ntonga de la mosquée centrale a centré son sermon sur l'amour du prochain et la paix.
Merci. Entre les musulmans et les non-musulmans, nous sommes dans un pays de paix et pour cela nous devons tout simplement renforcer nos liens.
Inviter les musulmans à méditer ce sermon de l'imam, mais au-delà des musulmans de notre département, l'ensemble des populations qui y vivent pour que le vivre ensemble harmonieux soit une réalité.
Au complexe islamique des Kribi, les fidèles musulmans ont remercié le Seigneur pour ses bienfaits, imploré davantage son pardon et prié également pour la paix.
Nous prions Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala qu'il a créé nos jeunes, qu'il a créé nos efforts, nos prières nocturnes, nos sadakats, nos aumônes. Ceux qui avaient rompu les liens avec les semblables doivent profiter de ce jour pour renouer ces liens familiaux parce que l'islam demande d'être un ensemble.
Les prières de dévotion à la place des fêtes au complexe islamique des Kribi et sur les autres sites de prière de la fin du ramadan après 30 jours de sacrifice, de partage et de solidarité.
Dr. Darlington Patrick, what you've proposed here that Cameroon can be doing to improve the level of education, I mean, there are certain things from what you say I see that can be done by the government, others can be done by the parents and others by educational establishments. I understand you're running Genuine Intelligence School and Global Impact School there ordinarily. What are some of these things you start doing at a level, and have you been able to measure to see the impact, I mean, how it influences the lives of the young people you train?
Yes, thank you very much once more, Mr. Moki. Just as I said, charity begins at home. Every of this innovation that we are proposing is something that we have been doing in our schools. And I can tell you, we are not even the ones to say that, okay, it's been going on well. The parents themselves, they give us these reports. Yes. You just said something that there are some that the government can implement and all of that. One thing that I always like to move away from is to always want to hold the government more responsible to do things for us. Yeah, because, you know, these things we are proposing especially for private schools. Do not wait for the government. Don't wait for the government. The government is doing what they can do. All of these innovations we are proposing are things that you can do with little or no funds. We started with the micro-credentials, as I said. We called the parents to a PTA meeting and then we explained everything to them. By the time we say, okay, we are just going to give an increase of 10,000 for these micro-credentials, all of them, they applauded. Why? Because they felt it was even too cheap. Because just check only the secretariat studies. A child, after school, probably you go somewhere to learn the secretariat studies. You're going to pay quite a lot. But if that is being given to your child just for 10,000 francs, then I think that is very doable. We come to the computer-based test, the offline. In fact, we just finished our exams day before yesterday, and it was only based on the computers that we wrote all of our exams. Did they add any money? No, they didn't add anything. All we have to do is let the school just provide these computers, and then the children, they just enjoy those things. And it's been going very well. The parents are reporting on that. It's been going very well. And then the last one that I talk about, which is the teaching of attitude and character. I've written a book because I can't just come and talk about how we can go about these things without the resources. There's a book that I've written, Attitude and Character for Secondary School, and then also for primary school in their different contexts. We started with that only with our school for 2 years. It is this academic year that we started proposing it now to other schools. And I can tell you, I don't need to call the names of the schools here, but I can tell you the schools are calling me. Even when I was out of the country, one of the schools called me and said, please supply more of those books because the books are finished. The parents, they love it. Why? Attitude and character. Based on my research, education, I just talk of intelligent attitude and character. Intelligence is just 10%. 10% success as far as education is concerned. Attitude is 40%. Character is 50%. So just imagine that we are focusing only on intelligence, which is 10%, and we are focusing only on the knowledge part of the intelligence, not even the skill. So you see that what we are giving our children in terms of education is even far less than 10%. How do you expect them
to survive in life?
How do you expect them?
Now, gentlemen, I'm going to give you 3 minutes each, beginning with you, Nalyonge, to conclude. What should we say is the take-home message after listening to all of this you've brought to be able to improve education and make it possible for the children to leave school and not to be counting on the government to have jobs, but to create jobs?
Yes, thank you very much. It has been a wonderful day, and I think going home, where our parents need to retain one thing, everybody, not only our parents, the education stakeholders in Cameroon as a whole. For education innovation to succeed in Cameroon, we need a collaborative effort. Policymakers need to invest in affordable digital education tools or skills or abilities or resources for everything to work well. Because presently it is true, the context in which we are doesn't favor it 100%. Even the tools, the materials to purchase, for instance, a digital board is about 5 million francs CFA, which presently a school in Cameroon cannot really afford 14 digital boards for 14 classrooms. So we also invite NGOs or other stakeholders to support in making sure that all this moves on. Again, the schools too needs to adopt these micro-credential programs. For instance, as Dr. Darlington said, in my school, Pinnacle of Success Academy, some years back, we adopted, and I really applaud that policy, whereby in primary school, all the learners in primary school, they must go through the sign language program. And in Form 1 and 2, they continue. So it ends in Form 2 in my school, whereby in Form 3, they now attack the GCE syllabus, which means a student who goes through the school from primary to secondary, 2 years in secondary, can better sign, can communicate. So we also see into inclusive education, trying to curb or breach this barrier, this gap between the underprivileged and the privileged. And we equally think that schools need to look into the training of teachers, and teachers need to embrace this digital pedagogy, because as our minister rightly we always say, digital pedagogy has come to stay. The earlier we embrace it, we need to we accept our reality. And teachers should understand that the more they embrace digital pedagogy, they cover their programs, their syllabus very, very fast. And lastly, to our government, to meet up with the suburbs, to meet up with those who have problems, infrastructural problems of access to internet and electricity, we are proposing the Talking Book in Cameroon to meet up with a distant learning center to curb this gap in such a way that everybody will benefit from this. As a result of this, parents and communities too need to support, because if all this is put in place, then parents don't reinforce the home training, whereby, as doctor said, intelligence, attitude, and character is very vital. We find people with great certificates today, high diplomas, but cannot really even maintain a job for a month or 1 year, or even gain access to a particular job. Not that they don't have the skills, because the character and the attitude is not. So home training is still fundamental in education.
Thank you. Psalmist Faith take home message.
Okay, I'm going to encourage somebody and say one of the ways to overcome the barriers that we just listed here is collaboration among educators and policymakers. When we have a good collaboration with them, I think a lot of things will be put in place that will help our learners. Investment in professional development and capacity building. This one will also extend to the home. You know, parents taking their responsibility, not leaving everything to the teachers. Parents identifying or watching their children, perceiving their different emotional changes and helping them, canalizing them, picking out their uniqueness and harnessing their passion, helping them to grow in a particular path that will help them solution makers. Job creators in the society, as I said, because we want to bring out people, we want to train people who are job seekers, who will help with the vision of 2035 in our nation, and also flexible regulatory frameworks that will support innovation. We can create a more supportive environment for education innovation, ultimately improving outcomes for our students, helping our teachers to embrace the digitalization that the ministry is putting in place. It's so difficult, just like I said, because we had been trained to learn for exams, to have certificates. But then we are coming back to the competency-based approach where we kind of, drill the children to build aptitude, build competence. So the parents, teachers to help these children to discover their purpose, discover their identity, and know who they are so we can have a wonderful world, peaceful and with good attitude, integrity, and I think we'll be okay.
Dr. Darlington, take-home message.
Okay, my take-home message is to all education stakeholders, which of course it includes everyone. Please let us embrace these innovations that we have given out here, and so that we can produce children that can face this future that we see other nations are embracing. And of course, to the government, it's true, I don't always like putting responsibility so much on them, but the government can just make the ground very favorable for these innovations to move on.
In all of this, it's true, talking about the government, well, if they're training children to create jobs, we also need children that will go and join other companies and create. Do you see that the private sector, the environment, business climate is very conducive for them? Do you train them to be able to brave these difficult moments of the future of the business environment?
Yes, of course. That's the reason why we say that the teaching of all of this attitude and character, it's really all about that. Well, you see, talking for the education sector now, I think the government, the policy is somehow favorable for the private school owners. Yes, because, number one, there is subvention. I won't come here to say subvention is not enough or not, but at least there is subvention. It is to at least encourage these private school owners to give more, because it's not too much about the resources, it's about the will.
That's where we end today's Twilight on CRTV News. Our topic of discussion was addressing barriers to education, innovation, stakes and prospects. And we had Dr. Darlington Patrick, who is organizer of Impact Education Innovation Summit that took place in Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, last week. We have Nalionge Maximilianus Ewoko, who is school principal educationist and researcher. And we had Psalmist Faith who is a counselor at Government Bilingual High School, Etugebe in Yaoundé. We've learned that with additional interest and with determination, Cameroon can train children that will be able to create jobs and stop relying eternally on the government of the Republic. I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka in Yaoundé. Thank you for watching.